Wyatt, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? It's actually Max.
Oh,
Logged in on Wyatt's email because
oh yeah,
he
there you
was the
go. You
host.
look in.
He's actually flying. He's on a flight right
It's
now.
not on.
Oh, cool. Love
Camera's on.
the you're bringing the surfer vibe though. What's that? Where's that a picture of?
It's a picture of Oceanside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, man. We're
I just moved there. I don't know if Wyatt told you.
oh nice. That's great. So you're like not bad. So surfing then, living the good life.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. Well, cool. So yeah, I passed the dial in to Dan. I think everybody else is good to go. Ran the questions by folks, and so I think we're in pretty good shape.
Cool. We'll just give it a few minutes for folks to hop on here, and then we'll get after it.
Yep. All right. Guess we got a bunch of people joining. So all right, I'm gonna go off camera. We go off camera till we can.
Hello, folks.
Hey, good.
What's up, guys?
What is up, fellas?
Going on,
Good
Alec?
seeing you, Alec.
Good to see you, brother. Where are you? Were you in Boston or España?
No, we've been in Boston the whole time since school let out. We moved yet again, so we're in the middle of that, and then this week has been my first week, so
Nice.
you know how it is.
Oh man. Wait, is that oh, so you're still doing your onboarding, right? So that this is the fun
Yeah,
one.
yeah. This is just like getting talked at for 10
Yeah.
hours,
You
and
get like the
yeah.
nice dinners and all that. That's fun.
No, we haven't had any dinners, although tomorrow
Yeah.
we have trivia night. So
Oh
Dan,
God.
where'd you start at?
BCG this
Oh, nice.
past
Okay.
week. Yeah.
Sweet.
How about you?
I was at McKinsey myself, but
That's right. Yeah, I saw that.
I'm currently in Winnipeg, Canada, at
Oh
one of my
yeah.
sites there. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Probably
Good, good
hopefully
Lord.
Yeah.
cooler than it is here. It's like 90 million degrees in Boston right now. It's terrible.
It's pretty warm, but yeah, not a lot of flights going from Southern California to Winnipeg. I
Fair
was
point.
supposed to be here Monday night and got in here Wednesday this morning. So big big clusterfuck.
That's right. So does your you guys got a Portco there or something, or what's the story with Winnipeg?
We have our company has we have 49 branches across the US and 13 of them are
Uh,
in Canada. So I'm I have to go to all of them. So yeah.
oh, that's nice. Get some travel in.
Calgary next week.
Oh, fun. Anything in Montreal?
Yep. Montreal, Halifax, Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton, everywhere. The like all across Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Montreal guy. We had an engagement there. I spent like the whole summer there, Quebec.
One of my favorite studies was at McKinsey was in Halifax. Was at a shipyard building the new
Ooh,
Canadian surface combatants. That was a cool one.
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty dope.
I find out my first project on Friday, so we'll see.
Are you working? Are you doing onboarding with uh shit, the guy from Ross? It's escaping me. Former 160th guy, and then
He's in the Boston office?
not the Boston office.
Hmm.
How about Brendan Lorton? I know he's a Wharton guy.
No, I haven't come across that name. It's mostly like they have all the East Coast offices all like pretty much on Zoom together, but in the
Gotcha,
office.
gotcha.
And then there's like a in-person session every now and again, like with other people in the Boston office. But I've only met like a handful of other vets in
Nice.
BCG, and none of them are from Wharton to date. So I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Always appreciate always appreciate folks showing up early. So
Yeah.
versus starting 5 minutes after a meeting starts.
Alec, are you still in North Carolina?
Nah, dude, I'm in Tampa. Beautiful Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, nice.
Yep. Had
Is this more reserve stuff, or is this just you?
it's it's reserve stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so keeping
Hell
busy.
yeah.
Small, yeah, dude,
Yeah,
just
no, I can
multitasking
imagine.
shit, man. That's what sorry for the profanity. I have Tourette's. Just multitasking stuff. So, yeah. And Melanie, good to see you.
Yes, nice to meet all of you.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, are we going to be put on stage or highlighted, or
That is a Max question.
it would be pinned, I guess would be the word
Yeah.
for Zoom.
Yeah, that would be.
Kyle, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Kyle, how are you?
Good.
What's up,
Nice to
man?
see y'all. Thank you for joining and
Yeah, of course.
helping and participating.
Melanie, to answer your question, since you guys will be the only ones talking, you guys should appear at the top.
Okay.
Just wait a few more minutes here for folks to join.
Max, you and I are rocking the beach.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle,
So,
where are you these days? Austin?
yep, same
Austin,
spot.
Austin, Massachusetts?
Yeah. No, Austin, Texas, the closest to hell, at least temperature wise, that you're going to find. But yeah, no. But Max just moved out to San Diego, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lucky
Oceanside.
you.
Wyatt and I are trying to convince Kyle to move to Oceanside now, then we'll all be there.
you don't have to convince me. I'm not the one who needs convincing.
Wait,
Like,
did you say Max moved to San Diego?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Oceanside now.
Oh, nice.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
What
I'll have
prompted
to make
that?
it down.
Just
I'm in Newport Beach, so not too far away
Oh,
wow.
nice. Yeah, we need to hang out. Just
for sure.
better weather, kind of
Yeah.
wanted to change. Felt like I kind of outgrown Utah, so. Well, it
Now,
looks like we got close to 100 people online, so if you guys
Yeah,
want to
we can start kicking
kick
it
it
off.
off, I'll let people in as they join.
yeah. So I'll give just a few short remarks and I'll turn it over to you, Alec.
Sounds good, man.
Then and after an hour, I'll open up the breakout rooms. We'll have a break room for each of the top 25 schools.
What's going on?
Too much.
Let me 1 second.
Well,
Oh, it looks like we're Max let everybody in.
Yeah, you guys are good to go ahead and get going. I'll just let everybody else in as they join.
Okay, cool.
Got like over 100 folks now, so
Nice.
go ahead and
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the annual Sitreps MBA Admissions webinar. Really appreciate everybody joining. My name's Kyle Eberly. I'm the CEO and founder of Sitreps. We've been doing this for a few years now. It's one of our marquee events for folks looking to transition into a top MBA program. And we've got a great lineup of really knowledgeable people, along with reps from the top 25 clubs. So I'll hand it off over to Alec Emmert, the former CEO of Service to School. And Alec, take it away.
Kyle, thanks. Thank you so much. All right. So, as Kyle mentioned, my name is Alec Emmert. I'm the former CEO of Service to School. I was a active duty Navy submariner for 8 years. Got out. I did some random things, and actually had a pretty, I guess, non-linear journey to business school. I ended up going to Wharton when I was 35, and I got in with a 2.85 GPA. I always share that with people because there is hope. Don't sell yourself short. Don't self-select out. There are ways to improve your profile, and that those are some of the things we're going to be talking about here throughout this panel, and to really kind of put your best foot forward and stand out. So, I try to make my story a little inspirational, and I'll be glad to share more about myself. If you want to grab some time later, I'll throw a link up where you can pick some time on my schedule to catch up. Now I'm going to introduce you to our three esteemed panelists. I'll give each's bio, turn over to them to give a quick little intro and share some stuff that might not have been captured in the biography. Then we'll kick it off with some questions to each, and at the end, we'll reserve about 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A from the audience. So, without further ado, I'm going to kick it off talking a little bit about Melanie Espeland. She has coached over 1,000 applicants and professionals to achieve standout results across their academic, professional, and personal lives. Her work has been featured in Forbes, NBC, TEDx, and more. She's proud to be recognized as one of Leland's top coaches of 2026. When you work with Melanie on your MBA journey, you're partnering with an insider who has firsthand knowledge of what top MBA programs like Columbia, Harvard, and Stanford are looking for. As a Columbia MBA alumna, admissions interviewer, former McKinsey consultant, and professional ICF certified executive coach, she offers a holistic coaching approach that combines admissions expertise with expert storytelling and writing, giving you an edge over the competition. Melanie, is there anything you'd like to share with the group that was not captured there?
Yeah, thanks so much, Alec. Really appreciate the warm welcome. This is my first Sitreps event. Always love working with veterans, so really appreciate all of you inviting me into the fold here. And one thing I've shared with all of you in the chat is a little flyer, which includes a special gift for all of you, a 15% off special preferred pricing if you'd like to have any services from me on Leland. And really, Alex summed it all up. I think that really what I bring to the table is not only many years of experience, but also really understanding what admissions is looking for. And also just really how to think about showcasing all of your amazing talents and your experiences, and in a way that's appropriate for a business school and an admissions officer. So that's just a little bit about me. Excited to share more, and I'll share it back to Alec.
Thanks, Melanie. Looking forward to hearing all your words of wisdom. Next, we've got Alex Shushnov, or as he's more common known, Shush. He's a Merchant Marine Academy graduate and former Army aviation officer. Earned his MBA from Michigan Ross, and he built a career that took him from a management consultant to defense tech. And he's now the CTO at a PE-backed transportation equipment company in Southern California, and is passionate about helping fellow veterans navigate the transition into business careers. Shush, what you got for the team or for the group?
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. Always, I've always had, enjoyed helping vets out. Have been doing coaching, also through service to school and other programs, and happy to be a resource. Sometimes it's kind of a ambiguous and kind of scary thing to navigate, and it's like, what do you do in your career? How do you get to business school? What do you do afterwards? So, I've been in those shoes. I understand the pain points, and always happy to help. So yeah, feel free to hit me up whenever. Always happy to take a casual phone call and just kind of talk through. So open invitation for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, we've got someone who is near and dear to my heart, Dan Chauvin. Remember, Dan and I first met, was it now over 3 years ago? I was on reserve orders. He was a new guy coming to the command. We were drinking some beers, and I was telling him about the opportunities of going to a top MBA program, because he and I have been talking, and you know how it is when you meet a sharp cat, you want to share some wisdom about what life's like on the outside. And Dan kind of fit that bill. And not only was he drinking beer, but apparently he also drank some of the Kool-Aid. So he wrapped up that tour and ended up getting into HBS. But I'll read a little bit of his bio for you. So Dan Chauvin is a Northern Virginia native and a Naval Academy graduate from the class of 2014. Again, this is an indication of the great intellect he has by choosing that fine institution. He spent 11 years as a Navy EOD officer, deploying across the Middle East, Europe, and Africa, including 2 years forward deployed in Bahrain. He transitioned out of the Navy in July 2025 and just completed his first year at Harvard Business School. This summer, he's interning with the Boston Consulting Group. Outside the classroom, Dan is supported by his wife, 2 kids, and their dog named Utah. Dan, what you got for the group?
Not a whole lot to add. That was a good summary. Just want to say thanks to you and the Sitreps team for allowing me to basically come on here and pay it forward the same way that you guys did to me in the past. I remember when I was in everyone's shoes, not just last year, but 2 times before that, as we'll get into. I know exactly what you all are going through, and I can say that you're taking the right first step to a much more enjoyable future. So happy to help out any way I can. And I echo Shush's sentiment where I am. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll give you my phone number. I'm just a quick phone call away. I'm happy to help out anyone anytime. I don't care how busy I am. I love helping vets that were in similar situations as me. So,
Awesome. And Dan, we're going to keep it with you for the first question.
okay.
So yeah, I'm interested to hear a little bit about your decision to leave the Navy to pursue an MBA. So you mentioned you had over 10 years of service. So you were kind of you were in '04 when you got out. So you're already kind of halfway home to that fat pension that a lot of people stay in for. You had a family, you had one daughter, another son on the way, a dog, and so a lot of commitments there and a lot of things that would make people want to stay in, but you decided to make the decision to get out. Talk us through that thought process and what would you tell others in your same position?
Yeah, so that was like my biggest dilemma. As you remember from meeting me in Bahrain, I had been kind of contemplating staying in versus getting out for 3 years. Basically, at my 7 year mark, I signed a 4 year bonus, so I knew that at 11 years of service was going to be that next decision point. The first time I applied to school, I was doing it under a Navy scholarship that I didn't get selected for. So I ended up going to school, and that honestly ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. Because between time number one and time number two is when I met Alec. And he is basically the one that kind of flipped the logic of the fact that you're halfway there, just do 10 more years. He flipped that on its head. Because you might think that you're close to getting this awesome pension, you got stability for your family and everything like that. But what you don't realize is what you're missing out on in those 10 years and how you're just getting further and further behind other people that are out in the private sector doing kick-ass jobs, making a ton of money that are just way further ahead of like where you would be had you not gotten out, gone to school, gotten a degree, gotten a high-powered job from there. So that's the first part. The second part, in my specific career field in EOD, once you're at that 7 year mark, you transition from being on a team to being behind a desk, and that sense of fulfillment of being just with like your dudes, like doing hard work and deploying and stuff like that, you don't really get anymore. And when I started doing the desk job, I found that like that sense of fulfillment and purpose that I had as an EOD officer was kind of just going off into the sunset, and I was looking for a new way to fulfill that purpose. And the best way for me was to start a totally new career. And I didn't think that staying another 10 years was going to change my lack of fulfillment, because it's really like that 20 year point is a finish line. It's not, that's how I viewed it. It's just a finish line. It's not a means to an end. You still are going to have to do something after you get out anyway. So you might as well set yourself up for success now instead of delaying it.
Awesome. Love to hear it. And again, like, yeah, what you touched on there, I think is so important because, yeah, like the pension's great, but people often frame it in the sense of, hey, I'm going to stay and get this pension. I'm set up for life, at the age of like late 30s, early 40s, depending whether you went off officer enlisted. But what people don't necessarily think about is the opportunity cost of those years. And those are kind of like your prime earning years. And you're often starting at the same level that you would have had you just got out after 5 years and gotten an MBA. So those
Mhm.
13 years you spend are kind of 13 years of great income growth potential. And I mean, you can crunch the numbers and all that, but at the end of the day, don't stay in just to do a pension. If you love what you're doing, and you want to make a career of it, awesome, good on you. But don't just view that pension as a means to an end. Is what I tell everybody. If you don't like it, you're not finding your military work fulfilling. No matter how far along you are, every year you spend in is going to be a year of opportunity cost loss. So, Dan, really appreciate that perspective. Now I'm going to kick it over to Shoosh. All right. Now, you are a graduate of the esteemed Ross MBA program, and you went to a service academy. And so the big thing I think about business school is it's an opportunity to kind of go back to college and get a college experience many of us veterans did not have. Or
Sure.
different. So say, for example, if you were ROTC, you went to, a big state school, you can kind of go to a smaller, more Ivy League type school. And then vice versa. If you're a service academy person, you can flip it. You can go to one of the more Ivy League type MBA programs. You can go to a big state school and have that real cool experience. And I want to hear about the thought process that drove you to Ross, and what the experience was like there. Were you going to football games, basketball games? Like, how much are veterans at Ross really kind of part of the student body in the Michigan experience?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I went to the Merchant Marine Academy. So I graduated with about 200 people in my class. My high school class was about 1,000. So my graduating high school class was bigger than the entire Merchant Marine Academy kind of combined. So for me, like my kind of logic was, I'm from Chicago. I want to stay in the Midwest. My top schools were Booth, Kellogg, and Ross. Ended up getting waitlisted at Booth, got into Kellogg, and chose Ross just because it was a little bit further away from home. When my parents offered to, like, oh yeah, I can just live at home, I'm like, maybe I'll choose Ross. Very similar programs, but Ross was, like, for me, just to kind of what Alec alluded to, like, it was that college experience that, like, I never had. I mean, even like Naval Academy, West Point, still larger programs. I mean, Merchant Academy was tiny, but it was really cool to kind of experience that sort of like school spirit where, if you didn't know what to wear, like, you could just wear a Block and Michigan shirt, and like everybody, like, no one would bat an eye about that. So yeah, I loved my time at Ross. It's a fantastic program. Obviously, like, in addition to like exceptional academics, athletics are top tier there. Whether it's basketball, baseball, hockey, football. I mean, going to the football games in the big house is an awesome experience, and that sort of football culture goes really deep in Michigan. Benji, I see. I'm just curious here. The X. So I'm not sure if you're an Ohio State guy, but ton of fun. I mean, I can't speak more highly about Ross. I think it is a little bit of a different program than, say, nothing against Wharton or HBS, but kind of just a different vibe and stuff. Much larger program, or sorry, much larger kind of like just campus and stuff. But yeah, I loved it. Would highly recommend to anybody. Definitely keep Ross on your list.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's the big thing I always talk to people about as well. Because people will often just like get hung up on the particular name of a school, but you have to ask yourself, is this where I want to spend 2 years of my life? And
For
is there
sure. Yeah.
something and is there something I missed out on, from my undergraduate experience that I wish I could do? And, the case of those of us who went to smaller colleges, service academies, and things like that, going to a big school and having that real like college experience, actually being able to cheer for a national champion, and go and watch some quality football. Not to say that service academies and going Army Navy isn't a great experience, but it's another level when you're watching teams like going to the playoffs and going to the national championship, in both sports, like basketball, football. And so
And
there's
especially all the tailgates too. I mean, like, Ross throws,
yeah.
Michigan throws. They throw a fantastic tailgate. And it's a big student run thing, and it's a blast.
Yeah. And other thing too is like I had Notre Dame's Vets Club had me out for a game, and yeah, just getting to go to the getting to go over to the stadium there, see touchdown Jesus, the Golden Dome, and all that. It's just like it was just a completely, for me, a foreign experience, and it's just one of those variables you have to think about when you're making your decision about where to apply. Just don't look at the top 7 schools or the top, next 10, like go to the U.S. News and World Report and just like go 1 through 15. These are schools I want to go to. Just do some soul searching and say, where do I want to spend 2 years of my life, and what kind of experience had I missed out on that I want to have. So love that perspective, Alex. Thank you so much. All right, Melanie, we're coming to you. Now this is something I think that is so important and is so overlooked, because we veterans pride ourselves on helping out each other, rightfully so. Service to School, the organization I led for over 2 years, pioneered the peer mentorship program with veterans, and we always reach out to other veterans for resume review, essay review, mentorship. Now, here's the catch. The catch is that most of the people who will, or almost all of the people who will be reviewing your resume and your essays are not veterans. So having someone with a civilian perspective, someone who's sat on admissions committees, um, without that military background to understand necessarily like what you're talking about in your essays and your resumes is so valuable to get Melanie, to get your thoughts. And so kind of the question I have is for veterans, how to best highlight their experiences so civilians understand. I know that's like a very broad question, but the big thing I'd like to hear about is there's kind of jobs that people all know about in the military. Like you see someone was a Navy SEAL, someone was a Green Beret, pilot, etc. Yeah, that most people have a idea of what that means. But how do people who don't, like the 90%, 90+% of the military who doesn't have that background, stand out and highlight their experiences to someone with no military background in an admissions committee?
Yeah. Yeah, Alec, it's a great question. And this is really, I would say, one of the central themes that really is what I have to look at with any veteran candidate, and frankly, anyone from a really specialized or niche background. You have to remember your audience here is an admissions officer who probably doesn't know a lot about what you've done. So they're not going to understand certain cultural items or acronyms or jargon. And they're probably someone who's been in academia to a certain extent or administration their whole career. So no matter what your background, if it's more niche, you have to make sure that we're thinking about who the audience is. And then secondly, you have to know what are their criteria, right? So even if you have, 10 buddies reviewing your materials, do they actually know what to look for? And so I think that's really the key thing is understanding what are those core criteria. And I can share those with you now that this is what most programs, really any M7, any top 20 program are going to look for. And aligning your resume and your stories to show these, that's going to help you. So the first thing is going to be showing any kind of hard skill, right? So problem solving, anything to do with numbers, technical skills. Maybe you are an engineer, maybe you've had to deal with, budgeting, anything of that nature, really showing that on your resume. Secondly, would be your soft skills. So are you someone who's had to, pitch something or persuade someone or influence your teammates or even someone above you? Or, have you had to negotiate? These are all different great words you can use to explain how your skills are relevant to a business environment, to an MBA. The third would be leadership, which is something that comes up, of course, for a lot of veterans where you've had quite a lot of leadership experience. And even if you've never actually led a squadron or if you haven't been an officer, you can always talk about coaching others, mentoring, teaching, training, things of that nature. So those are also great keywords. And then I'd say the fourth item would be a track record of success. So have you grown, right? Have you been promoted? Have you had a variety of different experiences? Have you had step up opportunities or increases in responsibilities in your time, as you were a veteran? And then I would say the fifth thing would just be thinking about community engagement. What have you been doing with your community, with family, with friends, even if you have a hobby, even if it's just going to the gym a couple days a week, do you have goals there? Do you have a community that you're a part of? And so those are the five core things I would think about. And that's going to help you to translate all the things you've done in your career thus far into the business world or the business mindset. So I'll pause there, Alec, but hopefully that helps all of you to start to think about how to make that translation.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I guess like so here's another thing that people will get hung up on is rank. And I
Hmm.
think we might have to do a Mythbusters thing here.
Yeah.
Is I've worked with a lot of enlisted veterans and like, well, I'm not an officer, so like I shouldn't apply, or oh, like I wasn't ranked, like my
Not
rank,
true. Hmm.
nobody cares. Oh, sorry. That is like my
Yeah.
hypothesis is nobody cares what your rank is. It's a black it's a yes or no, veteran yes, or no. Over to you.
100%. The rank is not important necessarily. And it's even the same thing for folks in the private sector, right? It doesn't necessarily matter if you have the title manager or associate or director. It's about really telling the story on your resume and in your essays about like, what have you actually done, right? What has been the impact of the actions you've taken, of the things you've done? So even if you have a low rank or something of that nature, that doesn't matter. It's about how can we show that you have all these different assets they're looking for and what you've actually accomplished. So I completely agree with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, leadership is leadership. Love that, Shush. And like the thing that I guess there's a saying that Jim Selby, who was one of my favorite people, he was the COO at Services School while I was there, former Master Sergeant in the Marine Corps. He said, anytime you put two or more veterans in any location, there's going to be a leader. So like you have to think about, even if you didn't have a formal title like leading petty officer, squad leader, or something like that, think about leadership experience that you did have, whether it was during an evolution when you stood up and managed several of your peers, solved a problem, took initiative. That kind of stuff is things that people love to hear, even though it's not just. It might not have been a formal title. Just think about that leadership experience you had when you were serving. And really thank you for that, Melanie. Appreciate your perspectives. All right, we're going to kick it back to Dan. All right, so Dan, this is the motivation question, right? That I love, and we talk about Dan. Dan was I'm going to brag on you a little bit. You're a rock star. Nothing but success. Top of his class at the Naval Academy. Crushed special forces training, special operations training. It's an EOD officer. Was killing it at the command, and he applied to a couple business schools in round two and struck out. And I thought I was shocked. Like there are, I can be shocked in a good way and I can be shocked in a bad way. And we always talk about, hey, like what are my chances of getting in? Yeah, you can have an 80% chance of getting in, but at the same time, you got a 20% chance of not getting in, right? And vice versa. So Dan was one of those people that I was very, very shocked. Did not get into both the schools he applied to the first time. Now, and Dan, I'll let you tell the story, but what he did is he hit the reset button. A lot of like a lesser person would have quit on the MBA thing, been so demoralized and not had the guts to push through. And so Dan regrouped, rethought, and then he ended up applying to six schools. What was that? I believe five of them were in the M7. Went 6 for 6 and ended up at Harvard Business School. And Dan, I'd like to kind of hear your perspectives on that emotional journey you went through, what it took to regroup, re-engage, and come back from that setback. Because I think there's a lot of people here in the audience who have had some of those type of setbacks or who may have those kind of setbacks, and I think your wisdom would mean a lot to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks for the backstory there. Just to add one more level of just the fact that it sucked is that the time that I got rejected when I was working with you was the second time, and it happened 2 years prior as well. That one didn't sting as hard because I didn't get the scholarship that I had talked about. But when I was applying, when I met you, I'd already kind of made the decision that I wanted to get out. I applied a year early, hoping that I could get in and then potentially defer or just cut my orders short and get out. And then that didn't pan out. So after that, I'm left with a year in Bahrain and knowing that I want to get out, and I have been talking about it with my wife and my family, and we were excited to get out and start planning our life. Um, so it admittedly, I thought that that was the end of the road. I wasn't going to go to grad school. I thought maybe I was too old. The admissions committees didn't want an old veteran with 11 years of service, that I could just go out and get a job. But then I started to send my resumes out to jobs. Didn't really know what I was doing, obviously, because I didn't get a single interview at all. So I was like, all right, shit, I definitely need to get a degree, or at least find some other way to get this transition actually working so that I have, support from my family. So then when I decided that I was going to apply to MBA programs again, I just looked back over the last two times I applied and see like what I did, where I went wrong, something I should have done between time number one and two that I didn't. And I looked back at all my old materials and I realized that honestly, I took so much for granted about the whole process. I basically assumed that because of basically all the stuff that Melanie said, the admissions committees don't care about, right? Like I was in O4 at the time. I was in like a special program job. I had a lot of leadership experience. And I looked at those old applications and realized that it sounded like a fit rep or an OER for the Army guys. And I was just kind of reporting the news on what I'd done in my career. And I didn't actually tell the story or demonstrate the impact, like Melanie said. I didn't do a good job at saying what about my military experience made me a tangible asset to the programs that I was applying to. Second thing, for the essays, I only had like a core group of maybe three or four people to read them, people that knew me really well. And I think that was a mistake. They didn't really give me honest feedback. They were more just excited that I was getting out and applying to schools. And then also again, with the resume, I didn't send it out to anyone that was not in the military. So it's only people that understood what I was talking about and like, yeah, cool, this sounds good. So when I buckled down, I knew that I wanted to apply to all six round one because I applied to round two before, it didn't work out. So I thought round one, I'll just do it all, cast a wide net. I didn't want to, risk not getting into a school if I only applied to one or two programs because my entire future was kind of hinging on this. So I finally reached out to all the veterans programs. They each and every single one responded almost within the week, paired me up with someone else in the club, reached out to services school, got paired with an ambassador at my target school. And then that right there was like seven new people that I'd never met before who didn't care if they hurt my feelings at all, who all individually took turns at absolutely destroying every single essay or resume draft I sent them. And that was the most invaluable experience that I literally cannot tell you enough. It humbled me in ways I'd never been humbled before. And that was the key thing that was missing from the first two times I applied. I thought that my experiences speak for themselves, but then when you're trying to translate that to someone who literally has no idea like anything about the military, much less a niche community like EOD, you really need people to just drag your products through the dirt, and make them better and understandable and demonstrate your impact. So I kind of rambled on there. I know this is a question about motivation, but I kind of wanted to tell you all that like you need to do your due diligence in finding people you trust and also people that you don't even know to take a look at your stuff because they will give you probably the most honest feedback and it'll be the most valuable going forward.
Yeah, and the other thing here too is like bouncing back from failure. And I mean the reality is there's I feel like a myth that oh like the military conditions you to deal with failure. I don't really think it does. Because most of the schools that we go through, I mean, have fairly high success rates. Like even the most selective schools or the toughest schools. I don't know what the pass rate on Ranger School is. I think it's like 50% or somewhere on there. That's pretty tough. But most schools, I would say they're pumps, not filters. And so you do your job, you do it well, you go to a particular school or training. By and large, the expectations you're going to pass. And if you don't pass it the first time, you can get a recycle, you can get a redo. So I think that very few people in the military have a good understanding of how much you're going to fail when you get to the private sector. Like the admissions rates on these schools are so small, right? Like, the most, I mean, I think the toughest military training out there is is buds, right? It's like 25% success rate. Well, like every M7 MBA program has a acceptance rate below 20%. God help you if you want to go to Stanford, like top consulting firms accept about like 1% of applicants. So you have to condition yourself to deal with that failure. And what separates success from like true failure in the civilian world, in the MBA admissions world, is not quitting. Being a guy like Dan, had an incredible career in the Navy. I thought he had some very bad luck, but he bounced back, and now he's like fucking, or sorry, Tourette syndrome. He's killing it. He's killing it. He's killing it at Harvard Business School and BCG, and like none of that would have been possible had he not had the character and guts to give it another shot. And so I think that that's a lesson for all you out in the audience, to just get that motivation, to not let a setback kill you. It's not like the military. You're going to have more goes. If you don't get into one business school, there's hundreds of other good ones out there. You don't get hired by a particular company, go and get another one. And anyways, that's just a little motivation there. And sorry for getting on my soapbox, but Shush, I'm going to kick it over to you. Now, this is a good one. We want to talk about things that make veterans succeed in the MBA admissions process and things that make them fail. Like, what are some common things that people that you've seen who have been very successful in the MBA admissions process do? What common traits do they have? And for those who have been less successful, what kind of bad habits do they have, or what kind of negative traits have they shown that have set them back?
For sure. I think Melanie and Dan kind of covered a lot. Melanie kind of what she was saying, you want to show kind of a holistic, you want to showcase like not just leadership, right? Vets do very well at indexing on leadership, right? But we need to see like soft skills, right? Hard skills. Anytime you use data to make decisions, negotiation stuff that Melanie referred at. So I think one is sort of expanding your aperture to understand like what is it that business school programs are looking for. To Dan's point too, there's a lot of like, first off, I'm a coach on Leland, but like, and I've been on several of these calls with sit reps. There's a lot of free resources out there, right? There's services school. You can reach out to different vets clubs, talk to them, right? Get feedback, get feedback on your resume. Talk to someone, kind of like help, like how do I approach writing, my essays and stuff. Use those resources. It's not to say that they are absolutely required, but like stack the odds and, like stack the deck in your favor. Like, set yourself up for success the most you can. That's what I would say, kind of just, how to position yourself for success. What was that? What was the second part of the question? Just to make sure
what things do people do that cause them to not succeed, and how can people
Yeah,
address
yeah. It's basically just the opposite of that, right? Like just doing it alone, not talking to people, not getting feedback. I do a lot of resume reviews, especially with vets, and as Dan kind of alluded to, a lot of them write like OERs or fit reps, and candidly, like they're terrible. So like I will tear them apart. I will then build them back up and kind of like, all right, let's think through like how have you created value in your organization? I don't care about your PT score, your weapons qualification, how many missions you flew. Like that's great, but talk to me about the value created. What's the enduring value that you created in your organization? That's the stuff that's really going to stand out on resumes. I think the last part too is just being honest with yourself, right? I think there's this sort of sentiment that like, I didn't go to an M7 program, or I got into one. I didn't go to one. But I think sometimes people have this sentiment of like M7 or bust, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton or bust, which again, great schools, great targets to go to, of course. But it's like you said, these are extremely competitive programs. If you don't have a 99 percentile, score, and not to say you need that, but also be honest with yourself. If you have an 80th percentile score and a mediocre GPA and kind of, like maybe expand, and there's like still great programs, top 25 that, maybe they don't have quite the same placement at McKinsey, but like, guess what? Like all these other schools like feed into McKinsey as well. So again, I think also just be honest with yourself, cast a wide net. Don't have like super narrow focus on, just the most elite programs. Um, and then with that too, like do your research, right? Understand like what makes Stanford tick, like what makes like an HBS candidate like stand out, right? And that's where you're going to get a lot of that sort of feedback from talking to people, right? Like, how do I position myself to be a standout candidate at HBS? Because what might work for Kellogg or Booth, like, is going to look a little bit different from HBS, is going to look a little bit different from Wharton and Stanford. So make sure you talk to folks.
Yeah, and so much of that rings true, and the like the being closed-minded, I think, is a big thing. So, I mean, when I was at McKinsey, we had, I mean, so Wharton, we had a bunch of vets, tried for MBB. A lot of them got it, a bunch didn't, right? But I
Yeah.
went when I was at McKinsey with people from all kinds of MBA programs. And the MBA program you go to doesn't define you. The only thing that going to, I guess, like a bigger name school will do for you is it'll give you a marginally better chance of getting an interview. But when you get to that interview, it's between you, the interviewer, and everything. Before that, the name of your school and all that means nothing, right? And in my eyes, like that's the big thing is kind of that level of humility you have. I've talked to a lot of people your whole like M7 or bus thing. I was talk, but and I find it very frustrating because I'll talk to some people and they'll say something effective. Oh, I only really want to go to Harvard, Stanford, or Wharton. Everything else is a waste of my time. I'm like, well, what's your end goal? What do
Yeah.
you want to do? Like, why are you at business school? And is it just to get a name? Because if it's just to get a name, you're wasting your time, right? Because
And
any
I think
company,
I think to that point too, it's like a lot of times, like if you're just looking for like the name recognition or you're just sort of like taking a shot, I'm just applying the top 15 programs. Like I've done interviews and it's really easy to tell if someone like really hasn't like put thought into like why this program, right? That's one of the first, probably second question you're going to be asked on an interview. Like, walk me through your resume, why MBA, and then why this program, right? If you don't have a good, compelling reason that shows you've done your diligence, homework, research, it's going to come out super quick. So, like, absolutely, like, you need to show that, like, this is the right fit and do your homework. The one thing
yeah,
I'll just add real quick is that, like, I worked with a candidate. I do a lot of like McKinsey coaching, and I worked with a candidate that SF. He was like SF Logi, Wharton grad. He had applied to McKinsey 4 times. It was finally the fourth time that I worked with him. We were able to get him, able to seal the deal and get an offer. But again, just it goes to show you, like, these are extraordinarily competitive roles, right? I even like, I worked at McKinsey with Alec, and it's like I kind of when I first applied, I sort of like had this sort of like arrogant attitude, like, oh yeah, it's like, I'm an aviator going to top program. It's like, yeah, well, so is everybody else, right? Like you need to stand out. Anyway, so that's the only other thing I'll add there.
yeah, I love that. My favorite meme is that, I think it's a Sitreps meme was the Buzz Lightyear one where it's like the veteran thinking that every like I am like this unique, I'm this
Literally, yeah,
beautiful,
it
unique
is so
snowflake,
spot
but
on.
there's like everybody applying is exactly like you, my friend. But yeah, no, and so I just want to just take it back to one thing, and then Melanie, we're gonna give you the last question. All right, and but the thing that you brought up is so important. It's like why do you want an MBA and why here? And why here is the most really important thing you can answer because you're going to business school because you have an end goal in mind. It is a means to an end to enter a career that or career field that you want. I mean, you might not have the career down pat exactly what it is, but you should have a general idea. And the bottom line is that if the program you're going to isn't going to set you up for success in that particular field or be a good pathway for you to get there, then you shouldn't be going there. So you have to do some soul searching and be prepared to answer that question, not only for the interviewer, but also to yourself. So love that point. All right, Melanie. Now this is a big one. All right, and the big thing we've been talking all about this peer mentorship. Getting in with service to school, hitting up sit reps, hitting up vets at Leland, getting vets clubs, and all that. But here's the deal: like we talked about, civilian. It's a civilian that's going to be reviewing your resume. So as a veteran, why would you recommend getting a civilian coach, vice another veteran?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Alex brought this up, which was definitely utilize the free resources that are out there, right? Like On Leland, for example, you can find example resumes and essays of folks that got into your dream school. So take a look, right? I'm sure you can find folks that have a similar background or at least are a veteran. So definitely do that for sure. And then if you're looking at working with a coach or somebody that isn't from a veteran background, again, the key here is that they're going to be able to really pressure test all of your assumptions. And I think Dan really spoke to this, which was, oh, wait a minute, I actually don't know how to write a resume or tell my story in a way that makes sense either for a civilian or for the business community. And I think that's the key differentiator is how do you take all this stuff that you've done, right? It's a list of facts and make it into stories and into actions and into accomplishments. It's the so what, right? As the admissions officer, as the civilian in this case, why do I care that you did all these things? What's the so what? And so I honestly think that's the biggest thing that a coach who's a professional one or a civilian can really bring to the table is how do you make that translation? And that's really going to be one of the biggest opportunities for really everyone on this call is that translation. Additionally, and this kind of came up with the whole Buzz Lightyear meme, is the unique factor, right? Is understanding how do you actually make yourself unique in the eyes of an admissions officer or a civilian, right? When they're looking at hundreds, if not maybe thousands of other veteran applications in a cycle. And so actually digging into your background and really having someone who can see what actually makes you a little bit different. Maybe it is a special skill you have or unique experience or a diverse perspective or something that maybe happened in your childhood that created a value system that is your North Star today. But those are the things someone who hasn't had the same background as you can help you to see. So hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, overall, really for all of you, it's about just remembering what's the so what in the eyes of the business school and the eyes of the business world.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too. And the other thing that I'd like to get your thoughts on too is
Hmm.
the the thought process of an admissions committee member when they imagine forming a class and they say, what kind of people do we want in our class? And like, so what are the thoughts that go through your head when you review a person's profile and say, is this someone I want as part of this MBA program community?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a big one. I mean, actually, it's funny in Columbia's application, they literally like they have us when we interview folks answer the question like, would you want this person? Like, would you have want this person on your team when you had been on your learning team or your cluster in school? So it's a great question, Alec. I think that not only there's the five criteria that I talked about earlier, but what they're also thinking about is when they're looking at all these different individuals is this someone who's going to be an active participant in our community and enrich it? Right. So there's a difference between being someone who's like, oh, yeah, I want to join the Veterans Club at Wharton. Okay. But are you going to enrich the community? What are you bringing to the community? What value are you offering? Again, it's that so what piece. What's the value? How are you making it better? So that's definitely something we're thinking about looking at an application or even in an interview. And really beyond that, it's is this person going to be successful? Right? Especially since you're making a career pivot, do you understand the industry that you're looking at? Do you understand the recruiting cycles? If you write about wanting to go work at McKinsey, I think a bunch of us worked at McKinsey, you know, Dan's at BCG. Do you actually understand how difficult it is to get in? Are you open to other non-MBB consulting firms, right? So really showcasing, hey, I've done my research. Yes, I'm a veteran, but I also understand this industry that I'm moving into, and I do have the chops to be successful. So that's another important point is if you don't know a lot about the industry you're entering, do your research. Definitely, that's a great thing to rely on veterans clubs for sure.
Yeah, and one thing, I'll kind of tag on it, my 2 cents on that thing. It's okay not to know, but there's a huge but there. But you
Right,
have to have a plan for how you're going to find out. And you can say, like,
right.
I think it's acceptable to say I'm very interested in X industry. I am looking to learn more, and I saw that your business school has this great program. Whether it be a faculty member, a course a club, something that can give you bridge that gap of knowledge that you're looking to find. So that's
I
just
love that.
there.
It's like being able to articulate how you'll bridge those gaps 100%. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not have the exact background, but being able to say, oh, I know how I'll fill the gap. I love that.
Absolutely. All right. Now we got 15 minutes left, and I want to open the floor to questions. So this is a judgment-free zone. We are not going to be reporting back to any admissions committees, consulting firm recruiting, or anything like that. If you've got questions, please feel free to ask them. It can be the group or to a particular panelist. Okay, so the first one is thoughts on EMBA versus MBA. Okay. All of us are MBAs. I'll see if any of our panelists are interested in fielding that one.
I'm happy to chat about that. I myself was an MBA, but I work with both MBA and EMBA candidates. I think the key thing, there's a couple of things to look at, right? With EMBAs, usually it's somebody with a certain amount of experience, so typically over 10 years of work experience, and it's usually someone who is staying in their field or in their current company. So it's a little bit tougher to use EMBA for pivoting for career development just based upon the way that they're structured and the fact that there's really no internship built into it. So even if you are a more kind of senior level individual and you're coming out as a veteran, and I think, Dan, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, but I would say you're usually still in a better position to be an MBA candidate because you're just going to have better resources and like structure of program to actually make that career pivot. So always happy to talk it more in detail, but that would be the overarching way of how I would think about it for this audience.
The one thing I would add is I would kind of think of like exec programs and like part-time like a little bit more similarly than like full-time, and then have like online as a separate category because like I I know a Ross guy, part-time Ross MBA. He had an offer at Bain and McKinsey. So it's not to say that you can't like a full-time MBA does cater more towards career switchers. You do get a lot more access to career services and whatnot. Not to say that you don't at part-time or exec programs, but when you're full-time, you're immersed in it. You have all the all the corporate presentations. You live it like day in day out. So I think, but for some people, family situations, life situations don't necessarily. It's like, hey, I can't just take 2 years off from not being able to work and stuff. So it's just one of those things to think about. Like if you can do it, if you can take the time off, if you have that budgeted, if your family situation allows for it, I would suggest a full-time MBA. Also, it's a lot more fun, to be honest, because you just like get to live like it's kind of like a vacation for a couple of years in a sense. Whereas, part-time MBA, like you're working, you're taking classes, weekends, at nights, kind of fitting it in. So it just depends, but you can still have similar-ish outcomes. I would say maybe the only time like for investment banking, like that's almost exclusively full-time. So it's very difficult to get into investment banking coming from an exec or part-time program.
Excellent. I'm just scrolling. There's so many great questions here. So this is a very big one. And I want to highlight this one here. Asking, is trying to get out with 6 years, 80% GI a mistake? Are there viable ways to help finance without a full GI in yellow ribbon? So this is a very loaded question, because there's no right answer to it. Um, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here real quick, and then I want to kick it to the others. I went on the yellow ribbon. It was a game changer for me. I basically went to Wharton for free. Um, the financial benefit of the GI, the yellow ribbon, is insane. And it's like the 90% you don't get the yellow ribbon kicker, which is a full tuition matching. So essentially, if you get like 90%, you're looking at about something like, and please, group, please correct me if my numbers are way off. You're looking at something like, high 20K in tuition support plus a monthly stipend of whatever the E5 BAH with dependents is for your MBA program. If you're getting the yellow ribbon, in most cases, you are looking at pretty much the full tuition, annual tuition coverage. That's like 80K. So that's like a 50K delta, give or take, which is looking at 2 years, it's about 100K, obviously, that you give up by not getting the full yellow ribbon. Now so that is a definitely a big consideration. And if you're close to that 8 year point, it's very hard not to go for the full yellow ribbon. There's a but here. There are other ways to fund it. VR&E, if you are 20% service disabled or more, you have a very strong likelihood of getting VR&E, regardless of how much time and service you have. It's not like the GI Bill where you got to have like the extra 3 years. If you do, say you're a service academy grad, you do your 5 years, not a day longer, 0% GI Bill eligible. You're still eligible, but you have the disability rating. You're still eligible for VR&E, which will cover the entire cost of your MBA. The other thing to think about is 100K student loan it's not the end of the world, right? You start talking about some of these salaries. You guys have seen the salaries on Sitreps jobs. You pay off that 100K pretty quick. So it just comes down to a judgment call, right? Am I going to have to take an assignment I really don't want to do? Am I going to be pretty miserable just to get that extra GI Bill money? Or is it, I'll do another year and pocket that extra 100K and have very little financial pressure while I'm at business school. So I want to kick that over to the rest of the panelists to get their thoughts.
Yeah, I'll chime in just real quick here. First, I'll agree with everything you said, but also some additional kind of resources out there. So this is where I do my plug for the Tillman Scholarship that I was fortunate enough to get selected for. If you're applying to Tillman as an MBA, it's a little bit misleading on their website, but the amount that's advertised is what you get per semester. So it ends up being a 40K total scholarship split across your 2 years. Which in my case, I did have 100% GI Bill plus disability, and that was enough to cover the difference in tuition and a little bit more. The second thing is I would do like this again, this goes back into doing your diligence on the programs. A lot of them automatically consider you for financial aid without you having to do an additional application, and you get that financial aid award in the form of a grant when you get your acceptance letter. So there's a couple schools that I applied and got into where I got an automatic grant despite having full GI Bill coverage. At HBS, they don't give anything if you have 100% GI Bill, but a lot of schools out there do. So it again, it is not the end of the world if you don't have 100% GI Bill with the 100% yellow ribbon match. There are definitely a lot of other ways. So if you're dead set on getting out, just go ahead and pull the trigger. And like Alex said, look at the sit rep salary dashboard. You're going to be able to pay it back. Like you are going to an MBA to set yourself up for success in the future. So use those 2 years to take a chance on yourself. You're going to take on a little bit of debt, but that's okay. Like you're going to pay it back.
Cool. Yeah, and it comes down to the individual, right? And your circumstances. There's arguments for both. All right, so this is a really good one right here. And this is one I want Melanie's perspectives on. So are there any real quantifiable differences between round one and round two admissions? I know that round three is more difficult.
Yeah, so don't do round three. Round three is for the Olympic gold medalist ballerina. It's like for someone who has such a unique profile. So don't do that to yourself. Now, when it comes to round one and two, they usually have pretty similar acceptance rates across the two. One thing I do like to share, though, is in round one, there's nobody in the seat yet, right? It's a totally clean slate. And so I prefer it slightly for clients if you're able to present a strong application for round one, just because you're not competing against any other veterans that are already in the class. That being said, if you need more time, for example, to take your GMAT or your GRE, or you just need a little more time to write your essays, round two is totally fine.
Excellent. Yeah. And so the thing is with round one, there's more pros than there's cons from what I've seen.
Yes.
But at the same time, don't don't rush it. Like if you need to give the GMAT or GRE another go, Don't rush it. The the two kind of benefits of applying in round one is that when a school accepts people in round one, especially veterans, they're doing it with a yield in mind, so it's pretty predictable. They're like, okay, I want 5% of my class to be veterans. I know my yield is 90% or what have you of like, admitted students. So, and I'm expecting X number of veterans in round two. So I'll admit this number of veterans. So there's like less variability in it. And there's
Yes.
also, from
Hmm.
what I've heard, there's greater likelihood of getting a scholarship. I, being a
Yes.
2.85 English major, was not the kind of guy who got scholarships. But I have heard from my friends that who did get scholarships that it was skewed towards round one. Now in round
Yes.
two, there's variability, right? So like let's say they let's say Harvard Business School admitted a bunch of veterans to meet their target, and those veterans were also admitted to Wharton, and they made a much better decision and went to Wharton. Now, all of a sudden, Harvard can admit like way more veterans in round two. But then the reverse can be true, like a much higher
Absolutely.
percentage. So that's all there really is to it. Standards are generally the same. There's, a little bit more the longer you wait, the more variability there is. So if you can apply in round one, you've got the numbers, go for round one
Yes. Well
is
said.
kind of my 2 cents on that. All right, I'll give us one more question. I'm looking here. Let's find a good one. And then I'm gonna throw my personal contact info, like my LinkedIn, my Leland, and all that stuff. If you've got stuff you really got burning questions, hit me up. I invite the panelists to do the same, so you'll have all of our contact info. Um, so let's see. I'm gonna find one absolute heater to close it out. Um, okay. All right. So here, let's just go GRE GMAT. That's the good one. So how much does GRE GMAT score weigh in for veterans? I'm sitting right at the average for UT McCombs, and I'm trying to weigh if I should take it again, or I can start focusing on other aspects of my application. Um, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in and then want to kick it to the group. It's a part of your application, and you got it. What's your GPA? That's the number one question. Where's your GPA sit? If your GPA is low, take it again and push it up. If your GPA is high, you're probably fine. Kick it over the rest of the group to get their 2 cents.
Yeah. I'm happy to share some thoughts. I think the
Yeah,
first
please.
thing a lot of folks don't do is they don't take a practice exam for both the GMAT and GRE to see which one they naturally are more comfortable with and score better on. So that's the first step, right? Make sure you actually know which test kind of favors you. And then the next step is really ask yourself honestly, did you put in enough work to get what is a top score on these types of tests? If you just study every weekend for a few weeks, that actually is not enough. For most people, that's not going to cut it to get a top score. You need to be studying, 5 days a week, at least 2 hours a day, which I know is a bummer, but if you want those top scores, you've got to put in that time. So I would ask yourself honestly, like, have I put in the effort and do I actually think I do have a little wiggle room? If you do have that wiggle room, then I would give yourself a plan, plan out your calendar, take it again. Additionally, to Alex's point, it's really important to think about how it sits with the rest of your application holistically, right? Did you have a STEM major in undergrad or an English major? Do you have a 2.8 or 3.8 GPA? Those are things that the school is going to think about holistically. Furthermore, do you have any type of quant skills that you can show in your resume and your work experience? So think about it from that holistic perspective, and that's also how important the GRE or the GMAT will end up being in how the admissions is able to just understand, can you handle the rigor of the program? So hopefully that helps.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Melanie. And with that, I think we're gonna take it over to the breakout rooms, but I wanted to take a moment to thank our panelists for volunteering their time. You guys can throw your contact info there. I know the people in the audience are gonna want to get some more time to talk to you, judging by how many questions we had. And then I also want to thank the Sitreps team for the community that they've built. Like what started out as a meme page has become like a full-fledged community of over 100,000 veterans. We're seeing people getting incredible jobs, like really transformative results. from the work that they've done in a very short period of time. So huge thanks to the Sitreps folks for all you're doing to build this community.
Thanks.
With that, yeah, we'll let people start going over to the breakout rooms. Yeah, and Max, I'll let you take care of that.
Thanks, Alec. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I just opened up the breakout rooms. We have reps from all the top 25 business schools, so you guys can hop in the rooms and choose whichever one you want to go to and chat with their vets clubs. Also want to remind everybody that we've built a bunch of tools on our website. We've also got our AI chatbot, so feel free to check out all that stuff and figure out, what you want to do. And if you guys ever need anything, please shoot us a DM. We'll try to help. Thanks for joining.
See you, Alec. Good to see you, buddy.
Yes. Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
You guys know how to get into the breakout room? I clicked the link that they sent for the invite, and I'm just like in the normal room.
Same here, brother.
The very bottom, if you see the
Bottom
little
right. On the bottom